So for the weekend well-being, I'm once again joined by Karen Ferguson from the Maven Club. Hello, Karen.
Hi Nathan, how's your week been?
It's not been too bad. I'm feeling a bit tired. It's been a long week, but it's good to be with you again for weekend well-being. I could certainly do with something to work on my well-being today.
Yeah, well, that's great because I think you're going to like this one actually. Because I remember you saying about how you quite like to run or go for a run with your brother. So, if you remember from last week, we're starting to work our way through the NHS's five-step to mental well-being. We looked last week at the importance of connecting with others, and it'd just be great to sort of have people reflect on how they can do that. I think there's something about being intentional that is really healthy for us. So once you start thinking about it, then you maybe start to think about other people that you'd love to connect with, or you realize you haven't connected with for a while, and it can help you to be proactive. But the second step of the five that the NHS talk about is the one that is called being physically active. Now, I know for some people, this can feel like a real burden and it can feel like another pressure to do something when they're already feeling stressed or overwhelmed. But actually, being physically active has been proven to be really, really helpful for our mental health and well-being. And the great news is that it doesn't have to be elite sportsmanship. It doesn't have to be entering competitions or being, a massive gym buff or anything like that. It's really about what you can do that will help you. And being physically active has been known and proven to help us. It releases endorphins and all sorts of things that are helpful for us and helpful for our well-being. Now, a number of years ago, I was in an environment where some people I knew were entering a marathon or a half marathon by means of trying to raise some money, doing some fundraising for a charity. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, I can't imagine doing something like that. And I realized that I'd always dismissed myself as not being able to run, whatever reason. I would make excuses that just wasn't something I could do. But I did know that I was good at encouraging. So I thought, oh, well, my way of supporting them is I'm going to go and I'm going to position myself at different points in the crowd and find them and cheer them on. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. My voice was barely working by the end of the day, but there's something really exciting about seeing those people, calling out their name, cheering them on to keep going and to keep getting towards that finish line. But the unexpected thing that happened to me was what else was going on, because I noticed that there were people who were older than me, perhaps unhealthy, more unhealthy, those that clearly were battling things like cancer. There were people who were emotional. There was all such a variety of people. And I'd kind of, I guess in my head, I'd made the assumption that it would all be these elite sports people that would be running these races. And I felt really challenged that how dare I have dismissed myself as not being able to do something like this when I could see all these people from really different backgrounds and different things going on were embracing this. So I made a decision there and then that I would give it a go and I would stop writing myself off. But I was really anxious about this and somewhat embarrassed. So I actually set my alarm the next morning for some ridiculous hour, like 5 a.m., and got up and went to the park that happened to be at the end of my roads. And I thought, whatever I can do, I'm just going to give it a go when no one can see me. And so I tried running along like one part of this park and thought, oh, I can keep going. And I did a bit more. And I got to the end and I was like, oh, I'm not as bad as I thought. And then I thought, right, so I'm going to keep doing this for a while. So I decided I'd do it every other day just so that I didn't kind of cause any injury. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, wow, this is actually really quite enjoyable. But then I thought, why am I getting up at this silly hour because I don't want anyone to see me. Because you start to observe that there's people running all the time during the day. And so I thought, do you know what? Nobody's actually interested. Nobody's looking at me. Nobody's judging me. So I changed it to a more sensible hour, still early and before work, but when daylight had an opportunity to come in also. And then I was chatting with my friends who we'd gone and cheered on these other people in that marathon. And we decided that we would sign up for parkrun, and we would go together. And I remember being so nervous, Nathan. I was so anxious that, again, I thought I'm going to come into this judgmental environment where everyone's going to be like, what are you doing here? But I wanted to do it, and it made it so much easier doing it with somebody else. So we went off to the park run, and I could not believe the environment. It was incredible. It was so encouraging. You know, they have somebody that it's their job to be the last person so that nobody ever has to experience that. And that first time, I didn't manage to run the whole 5K. I walked some of it, but I got round and I felt on top of the world. I felt so proud of myself. And so I then decided the next week in my head, I was like, I don't care how slow I am, but I'm going to make sure I run the whole way. And I achieved that. And after a little while, we just got addicted to this. We loved it. It was such a lovely thing to do on a Saturday. And it was a really healthy thing to do to kind of stop the stresses of the week and then start the weekend. And so we would do that. And then before we knew it, we actually entered some competitions. And I remember the first time crossing the finish line and being given a medal and feeling like I was an athlete, almost like an Olympic champion. And, you know, I was never going to be amazing at it, but it was so rewarding to do this. And it became part of my life. And then when COVID came and you were allowed to sort of do an element of exercise, running became a lifeline for me. And then when you were allowed to meet with somebody else, one other person outdoors for exercise, I was able to meet with my friend that we'd originally started this with. And we used to say we were running the crazy off because I was under so much pressure on a number of levels to then be able to go and connect and run just was incredible. So for me, I had dismissed myself from this activity for no real reason, but then being able to just try it, it did wonders and still does for my mental health and well-being. And more recently, I've just had surgery and I haven't been allowed to run, but it's really good for me because what I've been able to do is identify that it's something that I'm going to be excited to introduce again when I can. And in the meantime, I've just been kind of going for walks and stuff at the level that I've been allowed to get that fitness back up. So it didn't matter that I couldn't do the thing I love doing. It's still about how can I be active that's still helpful for my mental health and well-being. And so the challenge for this weekend is to ask yourself, is there anything that you're dismissing? Is there something that you could be doing to keep yourself physically active that you've written yourself off of from being able to do? What might that be? And can you reset that thinking in the same way that I did to say, actually, being physically active will be good for me. What does it look like for me? It's the tiniest little steps. You know, I love the fact that you can now do chair exercises and all sorts of things that no matter what else is going on with your health, there's a way to be physically active that will do you good and bring you good. So what does it look like for you?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. That is a really important part of our mental health, isn't it? Exercise and just generally keeping active. I mean, like you say, it doesn't have to be running a marathon and breaking records around the world. It doesn't have to be anything so grand, but it's just about keeping active and doing what we enjoy. For a lot of us, perhaps it's a particular sport. I mean, I love playing football.
Mm-hmm.
Don't necessarily need to take part in, professional matches or anything like that. But I can still kick my ball around in the garden and have fun because it's a sort of sport that I enjoy. And for many of us, it might be that. I mean, I'm not a big fan of running, I'll be honest with you. I only do it because I know it's good for me.
Uh-huh.
But it is really good fun when you do it with someone else because there's a certain camaraderie, there's a certain, perhaps even a
Yeah.
small amount of competition, which can motivate you and make it an exciting experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're really good thought for us. Thank you so much, Karen.
You're welcome. Just to say, I'm not really a runner that likes to run by myself. I'm a social runner. I love a run and a chat and a coffee after, if I'm honest.
Yeah, social runner. That is a good term. Yeah, I think I'm the same myself. It's a lot easier when there's somebody with you because I mean, for one thing, if you arrange to run with them, you can't just then decide, oh, I'll cancel it for now because you've got an
Yeah.
obligation then. Yeah. Anyhow, thank you so much. This is the second step of the 5 steps to mental health by the NHS, isn't it? So the first
Yeah.
one was connecting,
Connect with
and
others. And the second one is being physically active.
yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing about the third one next week.
Thank you.
Pure Media, the magazine, is hand perfected with some of the finest writers from around the world that we could find. And yes, Andy B too. New editions are released just for you on the first Friday of every month, from our family to your family. Pure Media, the magazine, is available now. Sign up for free at puremediafamily.com/magazine.